Hoo-yah, team. We've made it to the year in review. Foreign wars, DOGE, political corruption, political violence, and civil war inside the Republican Party. And guess what? I'm going to make a ton of predictions on what's going to happen this year today on the David Rutherford Show. I wish we had like some crazy ass like soul funkadelic, theme music that we could play, Jordy.
Dude, I could make that easy.
Well, I mean, you're like the soul funkadelic theme music. Like I'd like to have probably, this coming year, 26, we need to up our game in types of theme music, right? But we got to spice it up a little bit here on the David Rutherford Show. Don't you think, Jordy? I mean, you're the musician. What do you think?
Put it on the calendar. David Rutherford album, theme show album is coming out 26.
Yes. Yeah. I do write songs, by the way. I have written about 15 songs in my life. And I do have a couple thousand pieces of poetry that we could probably turn into songs. We got to make sure we bring Derek into this and a couple of the other pipe hitters out there and get it done for the upcoming year. This year's going to be a huge year, by the way. You know that. And for all of you that are listening in and you're finishing the year out strong with me, I can't even begin to tell you how fired up I am to be back behind this microphone. Just a few days ago, I was able to guest host on the Clay and Buck national radio show. And, without Buck and to a little sidebar of Sean there, I wouldn't be here. And if it wasn't for Sean, I wouldn't have Jordy. Sean introduced me to Jordy. And so, I think the first thing just to start out is Jordy and I want to tell y'all, thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for paying attention to this old crusty frogman and what we've been trying to do for y'all in terms of being the flashbang of truth. And just so you know, one last shameless plug, if you want to really jump on board, here is the D Rutherford Show official t-shirt, a little flashbang of truth right on the front and on the back. We've got the dynamics of how to throw a flashbang, what we had hoped to be in terms of the flashbang of truth, a little shameless plug. And then while you're in there, while you're at it, go ahead and get the Jordy Long Frog Logic hat special. This is the one he's always wearing. It's a great trucker's hat, all black, got the red Frog Logic logo with the anchor behind it. That's an oldie but a goodie. We've got some other merch in there as well. If you also want to know what else, just visit davidrutherford.com. You can check out, we've got 3 online courses. You can start the year out right. I know you've got a plan, a goal, and we want to help you with that. And these courses, again, these are courses that I've been working on this curriculum for 30 plus years, as a SEAL, as a Blackwater, as a CIA, as an instructor, as a world championship performance coach for the Red Sox and all the other teams I've worked with. I believe that these online training regimens teaching you to first embrace your fear, then you can forge your self-confidence, and then you can learn to live a team life. These 3 things will get you dialed in on whatever missions you want to focus on in this upcoming year. I'm giving you real world examples, real world background, real world research, and also my own personal experiences from all the things I've done. So go check us out at davidrutherford.com for that. All right, Jordy.
Hey, real quick on the hat. It's been scientifically proven that this hat in particular raises your testosterone by 500 nanograms. So
that's right. That's right. While you're wearing that hat and you go out and you hit the gym every day and you eat clean and you work out right and you take your supplements, your testosterone will go up 100% while you wear that hat. So yeah, we got to put allegedly. I guess we should always tag everything with allegedly, right? Yes. So allegedly, my show will make you smarter. Allegedly, my advice will make you better. And allegedly, no, I'm not even going to go there. That would have been pretty ruthless. But anyways, all right. So year in review. Now, when we came up with this idea, which was only the natural thing to do, everybody does a year in review, and we wanted to just go along with everybody else. We What were you going to cover? And so what we wanted to do is cover the biggest topics that seem to be constantly in the news cycle, right? The things that never go out. And then in the news cycle that we have in the modern world, that's pretty difficult to do. So if the story keeps coming back around, that was kind of the standard or the analysis that we wanted to employ in order to what would govern the stories that we were going to cover in this year in review. Again, if you dig the show, please like, subscribe, and share it with other people. Again, if you also have an idea for a show, hit me up on X or on Instagram. My personal page is at Team Frog Logic, or you can hit the show up, right? And that's on X at D Rutherford Show. Or on all the other socials, it's at David Rutherford. You can send us something on YouTube, send us something wherever you want to send it. If you got a great idea for a show, we've got some really huge shows building for next year. We just recorded our first one that's going to launch, which is a great way to start the new year fighting. Wink, wink, nod, nod. We've got a great world renowned legendary fighter coming on to start it out. And then also if you have a great story yourself, that you want to share about something really unique or cool or something cool you've done in your life, don't be afraid to reach out to us. All right. I'm a guy, and I think Jordy's on board that, we don't want to get pigeonholed into any one particular style of coverage or any one style of news story. You know, I'm only going to do foreign affairs. I'm only going to do veterans issues. I'm only going to do, we want to do everything. And that's why we've had just this incredible year from, interviewing, Matt Rule, the head coach of Nebraska Cornhuskers, or Pat Kraft, the AD at Penn State or Sig, world champion breath holder, or, Jeff, AT guy. We love all things sports and sports related. We love this year. My promise to Jordy, is we're going to have some musicians on this year. I really want to bring on some musicians. I want to bring on some more artists. We had a couple artists on this year, which I loved, Freedom Tunes, as well as, George, who does the political cartoons. Love that. Again, we've had our economist, Bryce Gill, on a bunch. We're going to try and add some more economists this year, do some more interviews. We've had a few operators on, Eddie Gallagher, some other guys. We had our whole grunt series. We're going to continue that. So if you're a Marine grunt, an Army grunt, or any grunt whatsoever, please write in, contact me on X or on Instagram, and we'll get you on the show if you got a great story. We're going to have some police officers, some firefighters on. Who else? What else should we interview?
We had Sarah Adams on.
Oh my God. Yeah, for sure. I'm still pressing Sean. Hopefully, Sean has said he might come on this year. So we might be able to bring, my best friend, Sean Ryan, on, which will be a great interview, I think.
And Robert Malone.
Oh, that's right. We had Robert Malone on. We had, Ralph Pizzulo, and I mean, he was incredible. We had, David Clemens was incredible. We've had, how many total shows have we put out since April, bud?
Was it 88, something like that?
So think about that. Since April 7th, when we launched, we've done 88 shows. So we're averaging 2 a week. Sometimes we'll do third for a week in review. And we're going to plan on keep that up. I mean, again, the idea is that, we can continue to bring you great content that, scans the entire spectrum for your enjoyment, entertainment, and then also bring you, contextualized information that helps you manage the tsunami of news that's out there. All right, let's get into it, shall we?
Let's go.
All right, let's go. All right. First thing that in the block of thing I wanted to cover was, foreign geopolitics and the foreign wars that have existed. Obviously, in the election time last year, Trump and the whole MAGA crew, biggest thing is no new wars. We're not doing any wars. I'm ending all the wars. That's going to be the main thing that I'm going to do, and that my administration, we're no more forever wars. Done. We're not going to be the country that polices the world anymore. We're not going to be the country that displaces citizens or creates chaos. We're done with all that, right? That was the Democrats and the neocons. Now, to a certain extent, we can say that Trump had some great wins, India, Pakistan, Thailand, what was it? Cambodia. There was a few other skirmishes that were popping off that he was able to stop. And given credit where credit's due, he did bring an end to supposedly an end to the conflict that was being waged from the Israelis against Hamas in Gaza. But we did see was some other things that took place as well. We saw that we decided to punch or press the bear a little bit, if you will. And where we pressed the bear is we did some pretty substantial strikes in Iran against their nuclear facilities. And then we've been slaying a bunch of Venezuelan drug boat operators, allegedly. We're killing them. I'm pretty confident that Pete and the gang are targeting the right people, taking down some tankers. And there's some loose rumors going around that we've been doing some strikes in internally in Venezuela, and that's open season as well. I think we can argue that shutting the border down is somewhat like of ending an invasion and kind of maybe a foreign war or foreign like that. I think, but I will cover the immigration thing in the corruption segment as well too. But the one that's on everybody's mind, and Jordy and I have covered this several times, is the biggest, most pertinent one, and that is the war in Ukraine. Now, I think Trump really hung his hat on this in a pretty massive way, saying, I'll have that thing over in, a week, my first weekend. And what we have seen undoubtedly is that is not the case. Why? But it's because apparently NATO and the European Union has a much greater say in the Ukrainian conflict than I think Trump imagined they would have. Up until the point where I believe that, the prime ministers or presidents from Germany, France, and England are actively trying to dissuade the peace talks and going against, because they are promoting this idea that other countries in Europe are next, even though Putin and every other political leader has said, no, we're not. It's not what it's about. This is about having NATO on our doorstep, NATO troops, NATO weapon systems. We're not doing it. We're not giving this up. And so they have continued this and gained considerable ground. Now, what is the impact of all of this as it relates to our foreign policy and international foreign policy? I think, the right prediction for me is that we will be pushed to the limit with those European Union and NATO relationships. And I believe that after the winter, when this thing ramps back up again, you're going to see the European Union try and stage greater troops on those border countries like Poland and maybe some of the other ones. Trump is going to be forced to pull out of NATO. So my prediction this year is that the United States will either press pause or that we will end up removing ourselves from NATO. Because I don't think Trump believes the geostrategic thing to do is to continue having Russia as an enemy. And mostly because I think he thinks there's a profound alliance to be had with a country that has the greatest amount of minerals, rare earth minerals and other other materials, $75 trillion in natural resources that could benefit the United States, could benefit the world. And then also from a geostrategic rationale to pull them away from China and get them back into our court. And I think another underlying component of all that is because Russia is a primarily white Christian country. And I think Trump is being forced to pay attention to those types of things now. I think where you have the European Union, essentially, you can go down the list of the countries, England, Germany, France, Italy, Sweden, you name them. There's so many foreigners that have come in. Immigration has so overwhelmed the system. To give you an instance, like in England alone, the number one childhood name in England is Muhammad, right? And so what you have is you have a population that is breeding at an astronomical level. And what will take place is these people will outbreed the existing populations that have been around for thousands of years, the native group to these places, whether it's Brits, the Britons, or it's native Germans, or it's Italians, Swedes, what you name it. Because I believe by 2045, 2050, white Anglos will be the minority. Whites will be the minority in all of these countries, thereby losing the political will and grip of the country. What I do also predict is I predict a lot more political violence. And I was going to say that, but I'm going to add it to this because it has to do with foreign policy. You're going to see many, many riots, outbreaks, and all kinds of issues, clashes that are going to start to emerge in these areas. Because what you have is you have the locals starting to call and raise new political groups to fight against this invasion on all these countries. So as it relates to Russia, I think as soon as the U.S. pulls out of NATO, the European Union, because they really don't have the capacity to wage a full-scale kinetic war against the Russians, I think you'll have peace, which will take place at some time after that. And in that peace accord, what I believe is Ukraine is going to have to completely secede all the ground that Russia has already taken. And there will be a demilitarized zone, and there will be strict anti-European troops allowed in Ukraine. That's my prediction. Again, am I an expert in any of these? Hell no. But just loosely based on what I've been paying attention to, which is, I think, above normal, above average, that's kind of what I'm seeing happen. In terms of Venezuela, I think this is going to continue to ramp up. I think the posture we're setting is going to keep putting more pressure on. All it's going to take is one thing to kind of pop off, one jet strike, missile strike, something like that to take out an American service member or members, and all hell's going to break loose. And that is going to be an absolute nightmare politically for President Trump and his base, as well as others. And I'll get to those. All right. So that's foreign wars. That's what I think that's going to be taken care of. All right.
Woo.
Pretty heavy shit. Yep. And thanks, by the way, it was Jordy's idea for the predictions. So if
something goes wrong, blame me for throwing Rudd.
That's right.
Under the bus.
He threw Rudd under the bus. And so blame Jordy for that prediction. So what I'd love to see, Jordy, is an AI image of you driving like a school bus that says predictions on the side, and then you're dragging me from the back or running over me, or I'm hanging onto the top, right?
That's right. Awesome. This isn't crystal ball. This is like hanging out in the bar with your buddies talking about next year. That's the vibe.
This is Frogman predictions.
I'll throw some in at the end too. Put myself on the line as well.
There you go. I appreciate that. The next big story for me, I think, was the Elon Musk-Trump relationship. And I think, amongst other things, I think it was Elon Musk and his connection to Donald Trump in the campaign that really pushed him over the edge. You could argue Joe Rogan's influence was definitely there. Certainly Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., some of these old moderates that join him, and Democrats. And I think, that combination, but I really believe it was Elon Musk and the promise that he was going to come in and he was going to expose the corruption, right? He was going to look at this like a business. And what happened? Started DOGE, right? The Department of Government Efficiency, which was incredible. First thing, hallelujah. I mean, I literally, when they came in and they said, we're shutting down USAID, it was like, hallelujah, hallelujah. And that was absolutely spectacular. Why? Because we were able to take the bite out of the intelligence community's shenanigans. And that's huge, right? If we were able to disrupt all of the nefarious things that a covert, non-elected intelligence agency running all these color revolutions, running all these illegal black programs through all this network of 8,000 NGOs all over the country, to the tune of, funding all of Ukraine's news organizations in conjunction with an oligarch, right? To all this crap that you saw, Muppet shows in Iran and Iraq or wherever. You saw this madness. And he came in and we had big balls at the table who ended up getting jumped and his ass kicked. And by the way, the guys who beat him up didn't serve any time, no nothing, no assault charge, nothing, because of the crazy judges. And I'll get to that in a second. You felt this sense of security. Like I really felt, oh my God, because what had happened prior to that, we had come up on $37 trillion during the election cycle. We were putting on $1 trillion in debt every 100 days or so. And, oh, dude, you brought up the debt clock. What is that thing out right now?
That
dude?
says, I'll zoom in on the show, but it says 38 trillion, 500 billion and some change. So 38.5 trillion.
Okay. So everybody and their brother, including, people that are not very fluent in economics or how the government works or how debt sovereignty works or any of that stuff, all you got to do is that's not a good number. and that's not a good number. That can't be positive, right?
I could talk to a random guy here at the sheets down the street and he'd be like, well, it don't seem right to me.
That seems pretty high to me right there, or,
and he's right.
Anybody would be like, don't you know? Yeah, that's a little bit high, don't you know?
Oh, yeah,
you go up to the Midwestern, you go up to Boston and be like, that's fucking crazy,
wicked high.
Yeah, that's wicked high. That's fucking crazy, right? I think when it's just normal but now it's like we're so numb to it that everybody doesn't realize, we're this vehicle just screaming towards the end and we're just going to fall off the edge in some capacity. And the thing that was crazy is Musk actually came out. He went on Rogan sometime around there at the beginning of the year and was like, you have no idea the astronomical amount of corruption that's taking place. And they found the whole thing about Social Security cards, right? There were 3-point-some odd million people that had a Social Security number that were over 120 years old, right? You had, he said on average, just Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security alone, somewhere like hundreds of billions of fraud every year. Every year, all right? Just there alone. Much less like what's going on in the Fed, what's going on in banking systems, what's going on in the market with this astronomical amount of shorting that's taking place. We just saw silver getting shorted. We just saw the Reserve, print $17 billion new dollars to cover these silver shorts with Bank of America and JP Morgan. And I think the result of all of that, when you expose how easily it was to expose all of this sent shockwaves through the Trump administration. And we're like, this is going to be too much. We can't do this. This is going to affect our own people. They don't want that because all of your senators from red states, all of your congressmen from red states, they're all reaping the reward of these federal projects that are just spewing money. And I'll get to corruption here in the Nick Shirley story here in just a second. But I think what happened is it was so blatant, so obvious, and it was so extreme, the nature of government corruption, that the government themselves was like, hey, we got to get this guy the fuck out of here. Like, you're out. There were stories that the Secretary of Treasury got in a fight with Elon Musk, that he was punching the walls. He had a black eye, that there was this brawl and screaming. And then we saw it devolve into this Twitter war with him and President Trump where Musk tweeted that, the reason he's not releasing the Epstein files because he's in them, as we now know was true. Not to the degree, allegedly, that he was involved in any nefarious things, although there's a lot of people out there that believe he is and was a part of all that. But it shook, I think, DC politics to its core, because what it was going to do was expose everybody. It was going to expose both sides, every level of how massive this corruption is, right? Why are all of these Congress people and senators worth multi-million dollars, and they're making $174,000 a year, right? Because the corruption of these illegal programs, it goes into their campaigns, right? Federal funds get dumped to a state dumps it into NGOs wash it through, then dump it into the political campaigns to cycle back into the federal dollars. And it's just this constant cycle of money laundering and corruption and abuse of who? You and me and our federal tax dollars, right? And you know who else is gonna take this one on the chin is your grandchildren, your children, my grandchildren, right? They're all going to suffer. You're going to suffer because this now is expedited. The decline is so rapid that we're going to all have to face this in our lifetimes, unless you're 99 years old right now. You're going to have to suffer through this. All right. And when you look at the corruption, it just bleeds into all these other aspects too, whether it's the housing markets, nobody can afford a house, right? You look at insurance companies and the fraud they're generating. You look at the healthcare and cost because of Obamacare. It's a nightmare. All right. So here's my prediction. All right. You ready? My prediction is that there's going to be a really dramatic, challenging political situation that comes up at the end of 26, right? And what will happen is they're going to try leading up to that to bring a DOGE kind of thing out again to expose the Democratic Party during that time in these areas. And they're going to really try and be like, oh, this guy who's running for reelection here, or this senator, or this new guy here is coming in here. They're going to drill down and expose the fraud through a DOGE style analysis in these contested seats. That'll be the way they go on. Nobody's paying any attention to the political name calling anymore. Everybody's numb to it. Nobody gives a hell. There's the divided side. So what you're doing is, and I just saw a graph that independents are going through the roof, right? Democrats and Republicans are tanking down to 27% dedicated to, and independence is just skyrocketing to 40 some odd 41, 42% people are starting to think independently, right? And actually, if I were you, I'd go change your registration and go become an independent. And that
I'm a
way,
registered independent.
There you go. I actually, if what happens in 26, I'm changing from a Republican to an independent. All right. That's my prediction for me. I get that one right. All right. So, the fraud at the scale with it's at is not going to go away, but it will be weaponized to become a political thing.
Right? I like that one.
And still nothing will actually get done. No one will actually go to jail. All right. So they will use it to beat people down, but they won't be able to do anything really bad. All right.
I'll toss in a little thought on that.
Yeah. What do you got?
All right. This is obviously expert, guaranteed to happen, crystal ball predictions right here. So
allegedly.
Grain of salt. Allegedly. I'll just say allegedly. First, layup prediction. We're going to hit good old round number 40 trillion in debt.
Oh, yeah.
Easy 40 trillion.
That'll be like when do you think?
June? Yeah, halfway through the year. I actually think too, first of all, I was the most excited about DOGE more than maybe anything, actually, which led to my greatest disappointment out of anything. We were all expecting, we saw this bad problem. We're like, our savior, Elon Musk, is going to fix it. If there's anyone who can do it, he can. He comes in, it blows up and fails miserably. And we all just left with, wow, it's even worse than I thought it was. So that was great. I actually predict world record government spending. Like never in the history of the U.S. has more money been spent into the economy. I don't know if it's going to be because of political positioning or if it's going to be because of a crisis, but there'll be something that happens and they'll go, yeah, I know that we want to cut our budget, but because of this emergency or because we're investing in growth, we're going to grow our way out and be so productive with this investment. That's why we have to print $10 trillion or whatever it's going to end up being and throw it into the economy. That's a good one.
I think the spending will come through bailouts, right? It'll be the cyclical bailout, governments, bond spending into the Fed, spending into save the banks, because I think the whole market is just being propped up by these 7 stocks and then all this other stuff going on. It's like an inevitable recession is coming.
That's what I was going to actually lead into, because I think that the AI thing, there's something that's going to happen. Like is some kind of pop and some kind of bubble is going to happen in 26, kind of like in 22, FTX blew up with crypto and everything. Yep. And it wasn't that like crypto's good or bad. It was just like, there was a massively fraudulent company that got exposed and it just tanked everything. I think we'll see something like that. And then where the spending could come from, what you're talking about is, well, actually, we're so concentrated and AI is so important that this is a national security issue. And this is for the safety of the American people. We have to use the government spending.
Ding. Yes, give that man a prize.
Yes, it will be a support the nation and national security emergency that we have to print these trillions of dollars to bail out these AI companies. That's what has to happen.
That's genius, Jordy. All right. That's the thing right there. Awesome. Allegedly. All right. The next one we did, DOGE now is corruption, right? The magnitude of corruption as a result of DOGE, as a result of the DOJ getting in there and discovering everything that you can think about, from FBI hiding files within Russiagate, right? What did we find out? We found out that Obama guided Clapper and Brennan to go in and change the intelligence assessment after it come back saying, no, there's no there with Russia intelligence or whatever. We also learned that James Comey stopped the investigation into the Clinton email scandal and what she was doing with the Clinton Foundation, which was one of the greatest corruption things you've ever seen in your entire existence, right? There was also the corruption that we saw in the January 6th indictments. Those were all pardoned and negated, right? And then the other insane one, the one that's just really at another level, was the corruption of the auto pen and 8,000 pardons being given by Vegetable Head that had no idea. As it turns out, right, Fox News reporter Ducey discovered that only one pardon was actually signed by Joe Biden, the president. That was it. All others were signed by the auto pen. And we saw Comer did all these investigations, all of his chief of staff, and they've all come out and, I told him to do it and he told me to do it. And I didn't know what he said. And I just was doing, it's the whole fucking, they did it, that whole shit. And I think that was a staggering reality of the level of corruption that ultimately was the fucking 2020 elections, man. In the 2020 election, now having, I paid attention through the whole thing, what Mike Lindell and his crew were doing, what True the Vote, what they were going through and what they did in terms of discovering, that machines in Michigan were linked back to China and Serbia. Then you had Arizona. Then you had the Fulton County, which we just found out again that, they finally, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation found out that, this is true. There are 315,000 ballots that were we found that out with testimony from Pennsylvania that the one dude who gave the affidavit that he drove in 290,000 ballots from upstate New York. We also found out from James O'Keefe from OMG Media that Act Blue was foreign governments were funneling hundreds of millions of dollars into the Democratic Party through Act Blue into these random elderly people. Remember, he went to Virginia, the outskirts of Virginia suburbs, and some little old lady knocked on the door and was like, "Hey, have you ever donated Act Blue?" Yep. Well, I have a list that says you donated $137,000 over 30,000 donations. I'm on a fixed account, sonny boy. That's impossible. I could never do that. I could never. Okay. So Act Blue's corruption, the entire Democratic Party and funding where it was coming external, outside. We also saw within the 2020 vote elections, the one of the most egregious realities was the arrest of Tina Peters, who just was pardoned by Trump, but the Secretary of State and the governor of Colorado are not releasing her from prison, even though it was a federal case because she took the hard drive out of one of the Dominion machines and proved that it was operating externally, connected to the outside world, and it was flipping votes in real time. I interviewed two people recently, David Clements, who's been following that story, a former investigator, prosecutor in New Mexico, went on to be a professor of law, and then has, followed this from the inner workings. Go check him out. There's a great documentary he has called Let My People Go that explains it. And then recently we had Ralph Pizzulo on, who wrote a best-selling book called Elections, which was done by Gary Bernstein, former CIA station chief, and won two of the highest three awards, and a guy named Martin Rodil, a Venezuelan American investigator who worked with DEA to find cartels, who discovered that Smartmatic and Dominion allegedly, I got to say that, but they discovered through human information and intelligence gathering that the source code that's operated in all those machines around the world is controlled by the Venezuelan government and the Venezuelan cartel, the Cartel de Sols, right? And that they flipped 72 elections around the world, and they flipped thousands of elections in the United States, starting with the first one they did, which was the Democratic primary in Cook County, Illinois, against Barack Hussein Obama and Hillary Clinton, which went to Barack Obama. So the election thing is the greatest corruption that there exists in the world right now, by far. And so that, and by the way, zero indictments against anybody other than the people who tried to call out the election interference, right? You had huge judgments against a ton of different people. They tried to put Trump and all his affiliates in jail. They put Tina Peters in jail. People in Fulton County tried to put Trump in jail with a RICO case. Michigan and Muskegon and Antrim County, the FBI went and the Secretary of State went after people, tried to indict them. So yeah. all right, here's my prediction on corruption. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And we are going now, what you have in particular, based on the most recent one, Nick Shirley, who, if you haven't followed Nick Shirley, you got to follow him. I've been following Nick for 4 years now. He is the best. And let me repeat this. He is the best beat reporter in the world by far. There's nobody better. I've seen him in Ukraine. I've seen him in El Salvador. I've seen him down in South America. I've seen him every major city. I've seen him all over in the streets of Paris. I've seen him in New York. Like, he is the man. He released a 41-minute video exposing all of the corruption taking place in Minnesota under Tim Walz's watch, to the tune of billions, $11 billion of fraud with the Somali immigrants in Minnesota, with daycare centers, all other types of support, government projects helping and giving these people free money. To give you an idea of the scale of it, the scale of the corruption, the amount of money these people have corrupt and stolen from the government, U.S. government, from the Minnesota people, is bigger than Somalia's GDP. Right? And
oh my gosh.
Again, everybody out there is going, oh, this is a turning point. We demand justice. You know, I thought Andy Frisella was going to literally break a blood vessel in his brain and have a meltdown. He was going off on it so much, you know, saying essentially the country's fallen. If you don't kick every one of those Somalis out of the country and indict and send to jail anybody that was affiliated with that corruption and knew about it, the country's gone. Like, that's the end point. And all I'm saying is that's just the tip of the iceberg with all this. Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, that's the greatest corruption there is on the planet. That's why we're $38.5 trillion. That's why we're going to get to $40 trillion. It's unsustainable. It's a Ponzi scheme. So what I predict is more corruption, because now what's going to happen is everybody is going to say, oh, the gig's going to be up soon. We have to get ours while we get ours. So at every level, from municipalities to states to companies, it's just going to blow up. And they believe that they're just going to be able to pay their way out of it by supporting campaigns for who? George Soros sponsored DAs and judges, right? Who now are basically like, President Trump, you don't have the authority to do that. We're going to stop you from deporting a notorious gang member and pedophile. We're going to stop you from doing this. We're going to stop you from doing ICE raids in these cities where, you know, and so what you're going to have as a result of all of that, you're going to have more people getting angry on both sides, right? Those that are being attacked, or those are being investigated, or those that are being exposed. Then all the people that are sick of being taken advantage of with their tax dollars. Then what you're going to have what? You're going to have political violence go through the roof, right? That's what's going to start taking place. You're going to start having more targeted assassinations. And you're going to start having more targeted political violence. Because you have two things. You have people that are facing, you know, jail sentences with their corruption. And then you're having people that are essentially tired of it. They're sick of it. And so what's going to happen if you've worked your whole life, you've gone to war, you've done all these things, you're trying to raise a family, you can't afford a house, you can't afford insurance, your kid can't send your kids to college, you don't have enough money to leave the country, go somewhere else. And all of a sudden you got nothing and you don't have any future hope for your kids. What's that going to provoke? So my next prediction is that unless, let me give a caveat. If the DOJ in the next 6 months, I'll give them till July, August. If by August we have not seen at a minimum of 50 top politicians, government officials, business owners, NGO leaders, immigrant organizations, if you have not seen 50 indictments and trials going on all over the country with real jail time, then guess what? The inevitability of what's coming is more, and that'll come after I go through this next part. It's kind of sequential. All right. Political violence going to go through the roof. All right. What was another story this year? Political violence, right? The uptick in political violence. We started seeing that, whether people were being attacked in rallies on the street. We saw vandalism. We saw all kinds of, speech isn't violence, but what you saw, the death threats, people getting swatted, it's just outrageous. I mean, MT Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's been swatted, I want to say 13 times. Wow. Right? I mean, that's an insane reality. We had, those politicians from Minnesota that were killed by the crazy guy, right? You could say in some capacity, the mass shootings at these Christian churches or Catholic churches, that was political in nature. And certainly these people were radicalized against those ideologies of religion / politics, whatever. It's in the same context. And then you saw political violence uptick against Jewish people around the world, for sure. Bondi Beach, the people in New York, certainly online. And then the be all end all, you saw political violence against Charlie Kirk. Now, what happened in this particular case is yes, there's always the momentary time where it brings people together and everybody was like, yeah, TPUSA, man. Now you saw 30,000 new chapters filed in colleges and institutions around the country. They have a membership of over 1 million young people or something like that. Flooded donations came in to prop it up, right? And they're like, yeah, we're going to keep doing Charlie Kirk's work. The challenge is, all of the challenges that are of and related to the investigation that this guy, Tyler Robinson, by the way, the case just started. I've watched the judge a few times now, seems pretty competent, but by the way, he has 1,400 other, cases that he's involved in. So another idea of where corruption exists within the judicial system, is you also had it radicalized a lot of people too. In particular, I think it radicalized or is beginning to radicalize a lot of young white male Christians or young male minorities that are conservative. Because what you're seeing, all right, here is the pinnacle, the ideal representation of strong, patient, devout, morally sound youth, a young man in Charlie Kirk, who's bringing conversation back to the forefront instead of accusation. And in his prime, everybody that I've ever seen or talked to or anything, like, he was absolutely would have eventually run for office, maybe president, whatever it is. And his organization would have just gotten bigger, but they cut him down in front of broad daylight. And don't think that wasn't an intentional reality, right? Because what you saw, this resurgence in youth conservative just shooting through the roof, most particular young Christians exploding all over, an increase of like 40% or whatever. You saw leftist views tanking. Some areas they're expanding, right? People wanting free shit because they can't afford anything. But certainly Charlie Kirk was, I don't think, the end of political violence. I think in what we've seen as a result of the fractionalization of what's taken place in the right, the political movement, the conservative movement, why wouldn't you do this now? Why wouldn't you go out there and attack the strongest voices, right? Both online, which everybody does anyways. I mean, it's, how many death threats do you think that Candace Owen receives daily? How many death threats do you think, Ted Cruz receives daily, or Tucker Carlson, or Sean, or whoever out there? I mean, it's out of control. It's just the norm if you're going to be a a personality or in the public eye. But I think it also proves that, if the narrative is accurate, that it was a lone gunman, it also proves just how vulnerable everybody actually is. I mean, hell, there were 2 active attempts against President Trump that almost, one a half an inch and he would have been dead from Butler, and the lone gunman in Butler, by the way. Again, corruption in the judicial system and what's going on. All right. So more political violence, I think, is going to rise. I definitely don't think the rhetoric will slow down in terms of people calling for greater action in a more forceful way. And my prediction is that you're going to see multiple marches on Washington with the biggest crowds we've ever seen in the world. I'm talking 5, maybe 10 million people marching on Washington or around cities all over, demanding the end of this political corruption at every level, demanding the end of all of this. And I think once you start having that, naturally, when people band together and protest peacefully and try and get their message heard and nothing takes place, there's what do you have left after that? 3 things, right? You have 1, people stop voting, right? And they check out of the system. 2, right? They stop engaging, right? They stop spending their money. They stop trying to engage in the economic system at a high level. They stop engaging with their communities. And then the last one is they become radicalized. And I see you're seeing that. You're seeing the radicalization, as you already saw with the left for years. Really, I think 2012 is when it exploded. A pinnacle, max kind of radical left. And by the way, they haven't gone anywhere. They're all just hiding for cover until the 4 years is up. But if there's some kind of event that shifts and brings them back to the forefront, that's just going to maintain. Antifa hasn't gone. Now, they have been labeled a terrorist organization, so that's scaring the shit out of all these, affluent liberal white kids, right, that are trying to be revolutionaries. And immigrants, illegal immigrants that want just to sow chaos. I think what you will have are these massive marches. If something happens and things are done, you might be able to quell that a little bit, right? But you're going to see massive projects and movements towards enough already. The uniparty, the oversight, it's just going to draw these people together out of these core parties before. All right, that's my prediction there. The last one is the civil war going on the inside of the American right. Now, obviously, most people want to believe this is a component, or some of those who have been paying attention, component of the Charlie Kirk, and it's the people, who believe one thing about Charlie's death and people who believe another. After you distill that down, you realize, that's not really where it is. It's a multitude of things, right? It's our foreign policy. Strikes on Iran really pissed a lot of people off in support of Israel. Venezuelan thing is really starting to piss a lot of people off in terms of no new wars. You have, I think, the support of the Israeli government has really, really driven people, and what many people believe was taking place in Gaza was a genocide against women and children, not just Hamas fighters. I think that has created a problem. I think the other thing is people believe the whole Epstein fiasco, with Trump calling it a hoax. That is a dog that will not lay down, because what is it? It's indicative of the whole magnitude of corruption that has been taking place with this one guy in particular since the 1980s. And there's enough information out there. And then you had this Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie in this bias put forward this bill, which everybody signed except for Clay Higgins in Louisiana. I still want to get him on to understand why he did that. But So to release every single thing the federal government has on Epstein, right? And so that passed, and everybody's like, all right, we're going to get down to it. Here we go. We're going to find out, was this guy an intelligence asset? And if so, for how many different intelligence assets? Was this guy a money launderer for different banks? Well, which banks? Was this guy running experiments and torture and human against young boys and girls all over the world on his islands and his ranch and all this? And, was he a weapons dealer all around the world as well? So all of that was supposed to be released, last Friday, a week ago Friday. And guess what? Didn't get released. They released documents and pictures, but none of it really incriminating. And, there's still who were these girls sold to? And who was he working with? And Mike Johnson has repeatedly come out, they'll redact what they can, what they have to for national security. Like, wait a minute, why is it national security with Epstein? What nobody's recognizing is how massive this issue is, because it's not singular in nature. It's not one thing. It's not kids, right? It's none of that. It's the full extent with which the United States government has supported it. And now the people are protecting him in all these high places, the elites, right? And when you look at the civil war that's taking place, you have people like Nick Fuentes that is exploding. I mean, he has a bigger audience than, I don't even know, most commentators out there right now, and he's just getting bigger and bigger. And I did a show about this, Jordy, and I did a show about the heart and soul of the 24-year-old male and what pulls them in. And just to recap that, right, first and foremost, they realize they've been lied to, right, about so much. And if you look at the war that's been waged against masculinity over the last 30 years, that's a real thing. Then you import the world of low intelligent, non-assimilating savages who take the opportunities and are given free shit over this person because been demonized, right? That's going to piss them off. Then you say, all right, well, all these other countries are more important than you and your future are. And we're spending billions of dollars to fund a Ukraine war, to fund an Israeli war, to fund USAID bullshit all around the world, billions of dollars. And we're going to let you languish in ridiculous college loans, and you can't get a job. You still live with your mom. We're going to do that. And then also we're going to tell you, guess what? Your vote really doesn't matter because the whole voting. So what do you fucking think is going to happen? What is your prediction? Right? My prediction. Oh, you want? Yeah, go ahead. What do you say?
Oh, Jordan? I was going to say on this, I don't know why people are surprised with the whole rise of the Nick Fuentes type movement. Because when you have, I just don't think people, it seems as if people have not met a 20-something or a 20-year-old male before. Because if you take a guy like that and he feels that he's been lied to by the people who are supposed to be in charge, you throw him in the middle into the throes of an affordability crisis, you have his job laid off because of whatever worries or aspirations of AI coming, right? And then when he starts to question that, you say you can't talk about that, or you're a racist, or you're a bigot, or you're whatever, or you're just ungrateful, you kid, whatever. Have you ever met a 20-year-old? They're not exactly nuanced. They're going to go push that to the furthest thing possible and say the most outrageous things possible just to dig the knife in. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to take it easy and have some nuanced discussion with you about why your policy is wrong. They're going to be like, oh, 2 middle fingers in the air. F you. Here's what I think. I'm just like, why is anyone shocked?
I don't think anybody is shocked. That's why there's a gravitation towards these radical ideas on every side, right? And all you got to do is look through history. We covered it in that. Look at the Russian Revolution, led by young, angry communists. Look at the rise of National Socialism in Germany. Young, angry, disheartened, demoralized veterans from World War I. Right? Look what's happening with the rise of the Antifa or whatever. Right? I mean, people, young, angry males are the ones who commit revolution. In fact, that's how we started.
Every
right?
time.
You want to imagine that, Adams and Jefferson and Monroe and they were all these old white guys in gray hair. They were all in their 20s. Some were still 20s and 30s. And they led the revolution. That's who leads it. So, and when you discover that everything you thought was true is a lie, and the people that told you the lie are also the ones behind the corruption and also the ones behind stealing for your future with $40 trillion in debt, what the fuck do you think's going to happen? Do I predict a full-blown civil war revolution in America in 26? No, but what I do predict is I predict a catastrophic collapse of the MAGA movement in 26. And I believe we are going to lose control and power of the Congress and maybe the Senate, thereby nullifying the rest of Trump's situation of his presidency, only to the point where he has to use executive authority, right? He might even launch the War Powers Act or some crisis emergency powers act. And, they'll have 2 years to go on this insane campaign to right the wrongs of these 2 years. And they'll basically suspend constitutional rights and rule as a de facto theocracy, in his final 2 years, which then, that's when you start seeing things really get spicy in 28 with whoever's going to put forth in on both sides. And you might even have an independent that's talking revolution. You might have a libertarian that's talking revolution, a Green Party, a new party, whatever it might be. But it's just going to continue to splinter and splinter and splinter and splinter.
I'll say this. My last thought on that is that if people treat that young male opinion and this whole split in the MAGA movement or the Republican movement, like Pierce Morgan treated not the ideas, but the sentiment behind the ideas of what Nick Fuentes was saying on his show when he had him on, dismissing him kind of like, well, are you a racist? When Nick Fuentes is playing a game above that, that whole thing. Like Pierce didn't even see it. If the young men of the country get the Pierce Morgan treatment by the establishment, we're getting President Mamdani in 28.
There are 100%.
Yeah.
They're 100%. That's what's coming. 100%. Then you'll have 26 Supreme Court judges. You'll have Puerto Rico and then it's the only thing that you can do after that is if your state is just resist and secede. And so, I think you're spot on. I think it's an inevitability. Socialism that they have basically the Democratic Party has created for the illegal invasion of illegal immigration to give them votes, right? That's going to then flip and go internal with young American men, right? And that's what's going to push back. So, that's my Hoo-yah predictions for 26, bud.
Woo! Happy New Year.
Well, here's the other thing, though. I also predict that people are going to get more religious and more devout than they ever have before.
Revival.
There's a revival taking place, right? And what I recommend to everybody is 3 things, right? Start praying, get your faith dialed in, right? Go to a great church, doesn't matter what it is, but go. Start a group, a men's group or a family group with you and your families around you and say, meet and talk about your faith and talk about your faith each other, right? The other is training, right? Absolutely go start training, be physically fit, mentally fit, emotionally fit, spiritually fit, and then go get yourself a bunch of guns, right? Carry a gun with you every day, be on the ready, teach, work with these people that are in your Bible groups, do that whole thing, right? And then the other is educate yourself. I think what we're going to see is this continued explosion in education, people learning and where these things originated, how they originated, how revolutions took place, how people formulate different factions and groups and what ideology. I think new information, and like what I love is on my feeds, I'm seeing this massive explosion in covering history differently. And I think that's going to be huge for young people to educate themselves. And then the other thing is, I think the biggest thing is people need to start to prepare their families for instability, right? And you do so by being able to sustain yourselves in tough times, right? Whether it's with food or supplements or training or growing your own stuff or moving out to the country. I think there's going to be a massive immigration away from cities over the next several years out into remote areas. For sure, you're going to see the heartland of America explode again. And I think what it's going to happen is we're going to go back to those core roots of what really makes America what it is, and those foundational ideas of God, family, and community, and then your constitutional rights of free speech and the right to bear arms. And I think that's the thing that's the more people focus on understanding what that is, that's going to get people there. So, go study the Constitution, go study what happened in the lead up. Hillsdale College has a great course on the years that led up before what's taken place what has taken place in the country. You can find it there. You can find it all these great shows online, these great history channels. And it's just that's what we need to do. We need to educate ourselves how to be better citizens of the country we want to have. Now, when that takes place, I'm not sure. I don't know. We'll see, and we'll certainly cover every story as we need to cover as it comes up. And that's what Jordy and I promise you. We promise that we're going to continue doing what we're going to do. We're going to go find great guests that are both entertaining and informative. We've got some huge shows we're working on right now, Supreme Court show, an SEC show, a political show with a general that's been fired. We've got a couple athletes on block to come in. Again, we're going to reach out. We're going to get some musicians. We're going to get some artists. We're really going to diversify in what we cover, because we believe that, right, what the David Rutherford show and what I believe is the more information you have to more things, the better decisions you can make for your faith and your family and your friends. And so that's what we got planned coming up. We also are going to working on finishing my book here. It should be out and released, I'm hoping, in the next month or two. The Poet Warrior, you'll be able to pre-order that online at davidrutherford.com. I'm sorry I have to all those who've already ordered it. Sorry, my fall just got crazy with travel and all the other things I've got going on, but I'm really dedicated to getting that done. We're going to release our fourth course here probably in the spring sometime, which will be Living with Purpose. Again, if you want to go check out our online training, my motivational performance training, it's at davidrutherford.com. We got an Embrace Fear course. I teach you how to embrace fear and use it as a motivational tool. I teach you how to develop and keep your self-confidence dialed in. I have how to live a team life, how to be a great follower and a great leader of teams. And then we'll have the final one, Live with Purpose. And then we're going to start to go out and we're going to recruit other people, other team guys and friends of mine. We're going to record courses with them and then offer their courses as well too this year. We're going to try some live streams, right, Jordy? Woo! We're going to try some live streaming this year a couple times. We're going to try and start that probably February or March. We're going to increase newsletter stuff. So please, write in, give us your email for our newsletter. We would love to have that. We've got a great newsletter. We're going to start increasing that. Like, share, follow, share it with your neighbor. Give us a follow on X and on Instagram, on TikTok, and all over. Our YouTube, we're going to start putting out more content on YouTube that's not related to the show specifically. Am I missing anything, Jordy?
That was a lot. I think you about covered it. I'm just really excited about 26. It's going to be a big year. David Rutherford show is going to go even harder than it has this year. And just excited to stay tuned for it.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. So I just want to go through some thank yous as I close this year out. I want to thank everybody I work with and travel with and all those guys out there that I've been working with. I love you guys. You know it. I want to thank Pat Kraft and his support for me and letting me work with Penn State. I want to thank Buck and Clay for giving Jordy and I this opportunity. Julie Talbot, who runs Premier Networks. I want to thank all our donors who've donated to our nonprofit, the Operator Syndrome Foundation. If you want to know more about it, just visit operatorsyndromefoundation.org. We've got 5 operators in a pilot program trying to figure out how to help them get metabolic stabilization, behavioral health support, neurogenic recovery, and orthopedic support. And just everybody that's given us any amount of money, thank you. It's going to a great cause. We're going to try and build that a little bit. I want to thank the guys in the program and wish you guys all my love. I love you. I want to thank all my close friends in my life who are always there to support me. I can't thank you enough. I want to obviously thank my family and who supported me. You guys are amazing. Jordy, I want to thank you, dude. I would not do this unless it was with you.
Same to you.
And I've never, ever had such a supportive partner and just person and doing what I love to do. And you just, you're one of a kind, buddy. And I just thank you and thank your beautiful wife for me too. And thank Bugs because without them, you wouldn't be the man you are. So I appreciate that.
Amen to that. Thank you too, man, for giving me the opportunity. And it's been the best one of my life. So I'm having fun. It's been great.
You're welcome, brother. Last, I want to thank my 4 daughters. God bless you guys. Keep me honest every day. I want to thank my beautiful wife. Without you, I'm nothing at all. And I really just am looking forward to this year. We're going to have a great year together, really do some amazing things. And then last and most importantly, I want to thank Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. You know, the hardest thing is when you look at the world and things seem bleak and dark and like it's never going to get better. Remember, it's always darkest before the dawn. And I know this from a lifetime of living in dark spaces, that the light that I find in that space is through my faith in Christ. He is the light. He is the way. He can be that way for you and for your family and for your friends. All you got to do is just take that first step and just believe that he died for you on the cross so that your sins would be forgiven, and that his resurrection proved that we have eternal life in heaven if we try and willingly sacrifice for those we love in an apostolic way, because that is our pathway till salvation. All right. Thank you all. God bless you, and hoo-yah.